Space is fake AF. Space is fake AF.
Look out into deep space away from the sun, it's the darkest night you can imagine.
All right, we are live, April the 1st, 2024. This is Chief Crow. I just sent out live stream notifications, so we'll give everyone a few moments here to show up. And we'll continue along the lines of what we were talking about yesterday. And I'll open up phones. I did kind of want to apologize to NASA and Elon Musk and all the glurfs, the gloobers, the globers, the globecucks about the whole flat earth thing. Yeah, obviously we were wrong. Space stations are real, and so are dinosaurs. And I feel really bad for all of the sandy hookers. We didn't believe them, and we know now that that is true because television doesn't lie. NASA doesn't lie. Elon Musk would never tell a lie. Starman was real. Like, there's just a number of things that we just got totally wrong. And that cargo ship hits the bridge and knocks it down, and we immediately jump to a conclusion it must be a conspiracy. I feel really bad for those kids in Maui incinerated by climate change, etc. So I just want to offer an apology again to all those who might have been offended by our refusal to believe in what is presented on the black box. All right, joined by Austin 108, Years Up, Upside Down Guy, Let's Go, Joe Fiora, P. Trippa, Thirst for Truth, Copaesthetic, Shannon Jones. Yeah, it's April 1st, obviously. But I was just testing it out. It's like, if I was proven wrong about everything, would I come out and just admit it? Yeah. Yeah, I bet it would be a load off my chest. All right, check this out. This is interesting. I don't know how many of you have followed this story, but Gage Grosskreutz. Here he is on the right getting squibby with it. Now, this is a guy who was simulated. Again, it's a simulated injury, if you ask me. Simulating an arm injury. Kyle Rittenhouse pointing the AR-15, shooting Gage Grosskreuz's arm off, basically. And Gage Grosskreutz went undercover. He changed his name so nobody would ever find him. And now he's Paul Prediger. And as Paul Prediger, he gets hit by a car and blows his cover by going on the news, and then he gets identified as Gage Grosskreutz, the crisis actor formerly known as Gage Grosskreutz. So Gage is now Paul, and now here he is on the left getting hit by an SUV. On the right, getting shot in the arm. And I'm just noting here how it looks like the same motion, like the same CGI is being used here. I'm not saying it's that fake, but it could be. It just looks like it's the same production company. I don't know the purpose to it, other than he was getting his GoFundMe account going for getting hit by an SUV. Yep, twist that arm. Somebody needs to go take a look and see. I'm still not convinced that the arm was ever blasted. All right, let's continue. We have a lot of stuff I want to get through from yesterday. Things we missed. One of the big stories from yesterday, of course, was that Jesus Campos was a security guard at Vegas, and then he shows up over here at the site of the bridge, the key bridge collapse. And this one, again, is another indication of connections between events. But what's interesting here is you have a connection between Francis Scott Key Bridge and Vegas. Vegas connects at the time, the chief of police, who is now over there in Hawaii for the Maui event, where they had the climate change thing. And I'm like, okay, wait a minute here. This guy's at these two events, this guy's at these two events, and then throw in Mountain Dew. Mountain Dew, Maui Blast, predictive programming at the site at the time of the fires in Maui. And then now we have Mountain Dew releasing the Star Spangled Splash, which follows perfectly with Francis Scott Key Bridge, again, author of the Star Spangled Banner, the bridge splashing into the water. Just fascinating connections. Is this the same Jesus Campos? Well, I don't know 100%. He looks appropriately aged, and looking closer into the story, they both needed translators, so there's that. And of course, the overlapping with the Vegas and the Mountain Dew. Yeah, I'm willing to suggest that yes, that's most likely the case. Copacetic says Gauge, Squibby, Grosskreutz. Yeah, if you don't know what squibs are, it's basically an explodable blood packet, and they use these to simulate shootings. These are old school special effects that they use in movies and on the set of psychological operations. We have this. In Atlanta, police dealt with protesters who climbed and chained themselves to a 250-foot crane. They were protesting Cop City. Now, this Cop City psyop is fascinating because it connects a few themes. It connects the Avatar 2 theme of the forest people, the Na'vi, fighting against the Marines coming in to take over their lush jungle moon. It connects Gaia worship, and James Cameron is enmeshed with NASA and the PSYOP entertainment complex itself. But I think he's tasked largely with putting the West in a bad light as Gaia killers that have to get rid of toxic masculinity if Gaia is going to survive. So you have this story of Marines invading this jungle moon after the humans kill Gaia. So they go to this new place, and the indigenous populations there, the Na'vi, the blue people, fight them off with sticks and rocks. Well, then, this again is Avatar 2, is the more recent one. And they're kind of like Atlanteans. It's all about water. It's called Avatar 2, The Way of Water. And the idea, of course, is that their natural balance and ecosystem is going to be disrupted and destroyed by these imperialists, by these fascists with big guns and marine buzz cuts. Well, at the same time Avatar 2 is out, you have these protests outside of Atlanta. Connection here, Atlanta, Atlantis. And the environmentalists out there in Atlanta are protesting what they call Cop City, which is a proposed training ground for the police where they're going to cut down 80 acres of forest outside of Atlanta to train police. So they're going to cut down the forest, bring in the police. The environmentalists are protesting, and they're saying if you cut these trees down, there's going to be floods in Atlanta. But there's a parallel because these protesters are throwing rocks and sticks at the police, sort of like in the movie Avatar. Later, they merge with BLM. The police end up killing one of the environmentalists. Autopsy shows they shot him through the palms of his hands, like a martyr, like Jesus. And I dug deeper into the story. The guy who was shot through the palms of his hands, for example, in his in the articles about him in his living room, he has photographs, and one of the pictures, and these are all props. You see Where the Wild Things Are and Good Night Moon, two books in front of this environmentalist who was martyred, shot through his hands. Well, Good Night Moon is interesting just because it's a reference. The Avatar 2 movie is about Pandora, which is actually a moon, a jungle moon. Where the Wild Things Are is about a jungle, where the wild things are. And the child puts on a wolf costume, and he goes over there and he becomes their leader, their king. Avatar 2, Jake, the character, the main character, puts on the animal suit, the avatar, and he becomes their king. So there's a parallel story here being told between Atlanta and Cop City, Pandora versus the Earthlings.
Thank you, Multi-Charo Dagger. The IPS appreciates the support.
Yes, very much. Thank you, Multi-Zero Dagger. And if you saw on the screen, we now have the Godzilla animation. Jennifer Reef says, I couldn't stay awake for Avatar. You know, I watched that movie with the intention of reverse engineering all of the predictive programming, figuring out what it was really about. And it was a combination of Fern Gully, Dances with Wolves, and then, of course, just transplanted onto this new world. But what I realize here is that you're looking at a repetition of a certain message that comes from James Cameron and a lot of these environmentalists. It's a critique of the West. And of course, in the movie, toxic masculinity is on full display. And it's the enemy of Pandora. And here's where it connects to modern stuff. Okay, so you have, contemporary news. You've got this Cop City situation with the environmentalists protesting against the cops. They're joining with BLM. So now you have a raised fist next to a raised tree, like the Na'vi and their world tree. And they introduce the concept that the moon is conscious. It's sentient. It has a mind, a global mind. The moon is awake. And the Na'vi live in harmony with nature. They can take their long hair and plug it into the ground, plug it into a tree, plug it into a fish, like Tom Cruise. And then they can communicate with Pandora's overmind, like a hive mind. At the same time that this movie's out and the Cop City protests are going on, down here on, around the World Economic Forum, they're talking about floods. Ellen DeGeneres is talking about the floods in her backyard and how bad it is. So floods, wave water, all these themes are coming up. If they cut down the trees, there's going to be floods. So I'm like, okay, there's some flood talk. The WEF is getting into this conversation, and it all seems to be aligning with this movie and this general picture. So you can see that there's multiple levels of this programming being played out, and it's all integrated. Well, the WEF at the time, and right now, they've introduced something called Gaia. So just as Pandora is alive, the idea of the Earth being alive was also talked about in Avatar 2. The story, Sigourney Weaver's character said, yeah, the scientists are trying to cover it up, that Gaia is awake. The Earth was alive and we killed her. And now we're going over like parasites to kill Pandora. So Gaia is the name of the Earth in mythology. It's a goddess or personification of the Earth. But at the same time, Gaia is a term, or it's an acronym for, and this is at the WEF, for the Global AI Initiative. The Global AI Initiative, a multi-stakeholder collaboration platform to accelerate the development and adoption of such tools. So here you have Gaia, the World Economic Forum's Gaia, connecting AI to this ancient goddess, and in the movie everybody can plug in to the goddess of Pandora, with their hair like a USB cord. And what I'm suggesting is that the World Economic Forum's Gaia is a mirror. It's a parallel to what Pandora had and their connection to it. And so environmentalism, connection to Gaia, a global mind, these things are all, of course, parallels. And at the same time that this movie is out, of course, the WEF is chastising the West for causing the floods. Joined here by G33 Oswaldo. Oh yes, that's right. And Jennifer Reeve says 1 week till the eclipse. The eclipse is going to be great. We've got APEP, we've got CERN, we've got a lot of hype for sure. It's also the birthday of the mayor of Baltimore, weirdly. Armin Reese says, good night, everyone. We'll be listening as I go to sleep. You will be getting deprogrammed. Normally if you fall asleep with the TV on, you're being programmed. If you fall asleep listening to Infinite Plane Radio, you're being deprogrammed. Jennifer Reeve says, during the eclipse, the temp will drop 3 to 6 degrees. Well, there's so much hype that the hypesters and the hype economy, and it's all about hyping things up, they're going to have to be called out. I had it, after the Super Bowl, I was like, okay, all of you doom prophets who are staking your reputations on these big events need to be called out when you're wrong. We can't continue to give them credibility and treat them like they're somehow giving us some information of value. Anyway, I was just bringing this up because they have these protesters climbing the tower 250 feet up. I was like, why can't they just be like normal environmentalists and throw tomato sauce at priceless artworks? Why do they have to endanger everybody else? I'll open up phones here if anybody has anything they want to mention. We've been covering a lot of interesting material here. The controlled demolition of the bridge, the coming eclipse, and all the various predictions there. And then we have all kinds of weird cult weirdness. Like I came across this individual who was claiming that she was being trafficked by the elite and has witnessed some crazy rituals. And you may have heard this person before. Her name is Ellie Carter. And I just took this to be more of this MK Ultra propaganda, fear porn for the right wing, a bunch of satanic panic stuff. But interestingly enough, this is resurfaced because she has mentioned Jay-Z and P. Diddy as being part of some kind of vast satanic network. Now, it is true that Jay-Z does wear one of the main dictums of the premier satanic cult of the world, Thelema, "Do what thou wilt," on his hoodie. Does that mean he's a Satanist? Does it mean that he's part of some kind of murder rituals? I don't know. But listen to Ellie Carter for a minute.
Blood, there's blood that I don't even know who it belongs to. Um, there's a lot.
So, so hang on. So someone like the people that you've named are here at these shrines where there is human flesh, bones, human body parts, and they want people to participate in orgies in amongst all of this.
Like having an orgy amongst severed body parts. I mean, what a mood killer. But she mentions by name P. Diddy and Jay-Z.
Human blood. Is that a satanic ritual feces? Is this a satanic ritual that they are participating in?
Yes. Yes, there's people who want to, there's down there.
Right, and that's why you're talking to some fringe conspiracy theorist on YouTube and not the police. Sure. I mean, believe it if you want to. Now, here is Pastor Kenneth Copeland cutting his hand, pouring blood into a glass, and drinking it in front of his congregation.
Pour that in there. Okay.
So I'm like, it sounds crazy. Oh yeah, the celebrities are drinking blood. No, that's sensationalism. Well, here is the richest televangelist in the world, Kenneth Copeland, with a fleet of private jets. Here he is drinking his own blood after cutting his hand open. And this is a common thing on Netflix. All these Netflix movies about occultists, Satanists, witches, they're always cutting their hands, self-harming and bleeding into a cup and then drinking it. Well, here's Kenneth Copeland doing it.
That's the cutting.
Do you hear him swallow? You hear that?
That's the cutting.
I like that sound effect. I don't like it. I mean, that's a vampire right there.
Yes, sir.
Now his blood is in my body.
Yes, sir.
It's in there. His blood is mixed with my blood. Can you see it? Western people don't know anything about covenant. Eastern people do.
All right. Well, we gotta study up. What are we missing about blood? All right, we're joined. Oh, look at this. Angst G says NASA is shooting off those 3 rockets into the eclipse at 333. All ritual. Join me X322. Deus in Paris says, be afraid, be very afraid. G33 says, try calling. Yeah, I'll open up my phone here in just a moment. Newful says, the globe explains the seasons, also the flight from Argentina to Australia. Well, it may. There's a thing here, though. We have to remember the map is not the territory. And we don't have enough information, in my opinion, to validate a model at this time. I think that the sources for our main concepts are proven pathological liars and propagandists, and they're engaging in worldview warfare. Therefore, we can't trust them. We can't trust them on history. We can't trust them on news. And no, we can't trust them on cosmology or cartography even. Oh no, they're lying about the news. But why would they lie about maps? Well, resources. Who knows what else? My point being, I don't trust the globe model because I don't trust the liars who've given it to us. And if it is a ball the size they say, the specs they say, they're not showing us what it looks like because all the images they give us are fake. So what are they hiding? That would be my question. But I don't assume that the model we've been given is valid until we've tested it, as far as we need more information, and I think we need it before we can make any determination. And the only safe place or intellectually tenable position at this time is shape agnosticism. And if you go solely by what you can feel, sense, and see for yourself, or even experience for yourself, it's flat and motionless. And anything else is going to have to be a leap of faith that the liars aren't lying on this one thing. Yeah, they lied about everything else, but I'll trust them with space. Oh no, they only lie on the ground. But once you get above 62 miles past the carbon line, that's the honesty zone. No lies up there. Everything in space is real. Tominoid says, just replace the assumption that a celestial sphere is based on the Earth's shape rather than the limits of our vision. Yep. Yes, exactly. Jake the A-hole says, according to the globe model, the sun and moon just so happen to eclipse each other perfectly due to pure cosmic luck. Globers think an eclipse happening is no big deal. Globers, glurfs, gloobers, globecucks, all of them are faithful adherents of the Church of MSM, and the globe is the least of their issues. Like, okay, so you believe the globe, big deal. But if they defend the globe, guess what? They believe the official histories. They believe the fake news. They believe the official version of fill in the blank fake event. So I don't care about the opinion of somebody who thinks everything is real because they saw it on TV when it comes to cosmology, the shape of the world, or them trying to convince me that there's nobody in a high and powerful place trying to lie to me and deceive me. Just look at the history of mankind. Look at religions. Look at what they do to people, what they've done to people, and try to convince yourself that no, they have the best of intentions, and all they're doing is they're trying to inform us for our own personal edification. They want us to know as much as we can possibly know for our own benefit. It's like, no, we're in a dark age. Dewis in Paris says, fakery aside, if I was in a clique of billionaires, I would want to check for open doors out of this place. Maybe I would build a particle collider and fire it up during an eclipse. Yes. Well, look, this is something also to think about. They know, and they don't all know, but at the highest level, they know what's outside of the box they put us in. And that's why they put us in the box. And I'm interested in knowing that. So what we have that differentiates us from the Normieville and the Trutherville dwellers is that we are aware of certain unknowns, that there are known unknowns, whereas they think they have all the answers, and their question marks don't begin until the edge of the universe, way out there. And they don't even know the universe is flat. Jake the A-hole says, us tiny humans just so happen to see the tiny moon line up with the giant sun just perfectly. What an amazing coincidence that they lined up like pool balls. I love how they can not see any potential significance to anything, even if it's in your face, even if it's even notable, just notable as a coincidence. Like, I like the work of Sergio Studio's 10 Vibes of Cosmos, where he's looking at the moon and he's suggesting that the moon is being projected above in our ionosphere from below, from some light source we don't see. He calls it the black sun. But what he has done is he has taken the continents as we believe them to be arranged, as seen from above, like an azimuthal equidistant map. So the quote flat Earth map. Now, if you take that arrangement of the continents and make it into a silhouette, and you align it with the moon craters, there's about 1/3 of the moon that lines up with our known world in this way. And what he has done in his work is he has put together a suggestion that the Earth is indeed a plane, and it's much, much larger than we know, and that the clue is in the moon itself, which appears to be some kind of projection of the entire mass of land. And by looking at it in this way, you would get the idea that we're kind of quarantined off. It's an interesting idea, but just the fact of the unusually, I would say, accurate alignments, that alone should be of interest to people in general. But the people who adopt the standard model won't even look at it. It's like you won't even look at it to notice it's a fascinating coincidence. Alnufel says, I will give you that NASA is a Ponzi scheme, but the globe model have been explained way before NASA. Interesting. Interesting point. You know, I found this article, and I need to buy a membership at this website to read the full thing. It's a scholarly article about John Dee and Edward Kelly, but specifically John Dee coined the term British Empire, and he had been an advisor to Mercator. And he was also an occultist. I mean, this is where Aleister Crowley gets all his ritual magic. This is like the godfather of high magic, Western occultism, John Dee. So this historically notable figure was an advisor to Mercator. And yet, in his private work, in his private diaries, in his whole obsession with what they now call Enochian magic, his concept of the world was not a moving ball in space, even though he may publicly, seemingly, have adopted the beliefs attendant with the Copernican revolution. But this article I found, and I'm going to go through it, suggests that maybe he didn't actually go along with that, but maybe his belief system did stem from this other concept. And if you look at Enochian magic and this way of looking at the world, the way that the occult worldview is, the New Age at some level, it leans towards a realm, but John Dee's cosmos was specifically a flat, square plane with levels. So there was no hint of movement or rotation. So I just find that really interesting, specifically when you look at the correspondences between Dee and Mercator, where they talk about at the center of the North Pole, this island supposedly resides where it's like a 33-mile circumference black magnet. Strange stuff. Very strange. But yes, NASA did not invent the globe. And the first terrestrial globe didn't have North America, South America. The first terrestrial globe was lacking that, which is kind of interesting. All right, let me go through some comments. Jennifer Reeves says, I'm noticing more interest in flat Earth among my acquaintances. Well, there's going to be a little bit of time, I think, before the stereotypical flurfer goes away. And it's good. You know, most of them are in jail. Like, for example, the main promulgators of the domed, enclosed model with the ice wall and the Bible, those guys are all in jail right now. The founder of the Bible Flat Earth Society, Philip Stallings, prison for life. Sea porn, bad stuff, 56 charges. He was closely associated and made documentaries with a couple other prominent flat earthers like Robbie Davidson and Rob Skiba. I mean, really bad circle of people there. Just pointing it out. We were talking about this actually in Discord earlier. And then you got ODD, very prominent flat earther, but he promoted the ice wall domed flat earth Bible version. Well, he's not out there to misrepresent flat earthers because he's in jail for distributing methamphetamines. So I'm just going down the list and I'm like, who is out there misrepresenting this great question? I mean, this question is a reset question. It's not an assertion. It's not a belief. It's a series of it's questions based on a major reframe. And I don't see why more people aren't interested in it other than it's been misrepresented by a bunch of bad actors. So it's good to know that a lot of these bad actors are basically out of the way. Jake the A-hole says, I think ODD is locked up. Yeah, and I'm only pointing this out because none of these individuals are authentic. They were all government-sponsored agents and trolls put there to hide the truth. Appendages of NASA, traitors, controlled opposition. We did a deep dive. We did a documentary on many of them. Many we just didn't. I mean, there's so much more we could go into. I'm not trying to relitigate the past, but I did think maybe it's time that we do kind of a review, an after-action review of what happened. Jake the A-hole says, Vibes of Cosmos could be anyone, though. I don't trust a channel with no name, no face that shows a cartoon model. There's extra pieces of land on his map that nobody has evidence of. Yeah, so there is that. There is the issue of the anonymous truther. And look, I don't trust Donnie Darkened. I don't trust any channel that claims to have worldview shattering information, stuff that would change everything, but they hide. I find that to be very, very sus. Jake says, I wasn't sure he was locked up, but I was guessing he was. I figured he violated his parole. He disappeared after I exposed him. Yeah, I've seen enough mugshots, and this one looked kind of aged. Like, I mean, aged appropriately. It's been a few years since I've seen him, and I'm like, yeah, that's him. No, we were talking about this earlier. That's why it's on my mind. We were talking about how this area of conspiracy conjecture, the conversation about NASA, the shape of the world, our worldview, how this had been gatekept by religious cultists who introduced a really strange, novel, new version of Christianity, along with a lot of shady people who seem to be working for, I would say, intelligence agencies, police, the feds, some of them extremely bad actors, but we're just, without getting into details, we talked about this on Behind the Perv, but the fact that this subject would be so tightly guardrailed and controlled makes it more, to me, more suspect, like more like, where there's smoke, there's fire. Like nobody's trying to gatekeep the conversation about Mothman, Chupacabra, Bigfoot. Nobody cares. And yet here we are saying, hey, unlike those subjects, where it's relatively, I guess, based on some kind of evidence, we're making this conjecture that we don't know, and there's an open question. And so it's like, I guess maybe it's because it rejects certain authorities, whereas the others are just saying the authorities are covering stuff up. But whatever it is, this particular line of inquiry has been deemed off limits, dangerous for some reason. Jake the A-hole says, whatever happened to Nathan Thompson? Did he disappear for good? Good question. And I met a lot of these people. And my contention here is that we're not dealing with authentic people, but with operatives with talking points who are there to distort a subject, attach it to really bad ideas, and keep it in a controlled realm. And this is what my main criticism has been for some time. That's why I refer to it as Trutherville, because we're talking about a universe of ideas. And this universe of ideas, it's actually a containment operation. And they're able to say, okay, you can be an alternative thinker, but just don't go this far. And these characters are uniform, they're scripted, and they all seem to be connected in some kind of network behind the scenes involving, well, shady agencies, shadowy characters. Dewis and Paris says they probably figured the internet age would bring the question to the surface, so they get out in front and carry a controlled burn. Yes, they definitely did that. They knew that every conspiracy theory would see the light of day. Flat Earth, Hollow Earth, they all had their time. They all surfaced. And what they call these are limited hangouts. So they know there's going to be a leak about NASA because they produce garbage, and somebody's going to notice. So just to make sure that those perceptive people are controlled, they have somebody come out and say, hey guys, look, NASA's lying. The space station's phony. Look at this. Now this person might be presenting some evidence of fraud, but then he's going to mix it in with a lot of bad evidence, and he's going to think that all the school shootings are real. So you're not going to have anybody who's like really truly awake. It's always going to be one or two things that give him credibility. And now everybody sees that. They gather around him, and now NASA knows the name of every person who knows that they're liars. And now they can steer that demographic, feed them misinformation, spin them in a direction, make bad documentaries about them, have their major influencers accidentally figure out that there's a space station up there. Like they have all kinds of contrivances to lead the opposition and crash it into the ground. Okay, Nathan Thompson was live last night, says Angle of Elevation. I stopped watching him when a video surfaced where he kicked a door down, where some young single mother was crouching with her toddler, and he was drunk, and he was threatening her. But it was insane. I was like, okay, this guy's unbalanced. And then he shows up in some house where he claims the person who took care of George W. Bush lived, and he's like, I got 8 shower heads. And he's showing off how the shower has 8 shower heads, and he keeps on showing off his abs to the person he's debating against as though it was winning him points for the flat earth, like my flat abs or something. I don't know. Like, I thought the guy lost his mind. Jake says Nathan was, oh, that's right, he ran on the playground, and he was chasing children, throwing flat earth propaganda at them and telling them to run from 5G towers, and the teachers were like calling the teachers back, the students back in. So as soon as he started going into playgrounds, and at that time, Dearth was going into nursing homes and asking people over 100 years old if they remember being taught the earth was flat. And a lot of them would say yes. It's like, yeah, okay, I'm sorry, but you're talking to people who are 100 years old and you're leading them with questions and loaded questions and you're putting them on YouTube. Unconscionable. I'm almost glad for the lockdowns 'cause it put a stop to that. I'm like, these guys are running onto playgrounds and really just bad ethics. Anyway, Jake says he was in 3 hit pieces on Flat Earth, and the one where he was tricked into wearing a duck suit was the one that completely embarrassed him. Yeah, I think I recall seeing him in a duck suit. The first time I met him, he said, "Have you read the Protocols of the Learned Elders of Zion?" And I'm like, "Oh, yeah, that debunked, recycled, obvious forgery, low hanging fruit, Truther 101 bullcrap." I didn't say that, but that's what I was thinking. I was like, "No, I'll check it out. Sounds good." I'm just thinking, okay, this is insane. Here we are at a conference to talk about the liars in high places, or who pretend to be in high places, and he's going to talk about some old anti-Jewish conspiracy theories. So I could already tell that this person was obviously controlled. All right, phones are open. 505-349-0420. G33 says he has good stuff. Elephant Tusk says a lot of truth in the Disney film Soul. Now, Soul was the film with Jamie Foxx, right? And I remember there was some kind of relationship between Jamie Foxx and Soul. Jamie Foxx and they cloned Tyrone. So let me see. Jamie Foxx Soul is that is the one, right? Hey, what's up, caller? Hello? Yeah, go ahead and call right back. There we go. Got the ringer that time. Hey, what's up, caller? Okay, we will try that again. Band leader for the Late Show, Stephen Colbert. Here we go. Oh, he fills in for Jamie Foxx on the keys. In the new film Soul, Jamie Foxx is the voice for the Pixar's black lead character, jazz pianist Joe Gardner, but someone else is playing the piano. Now, what's the main story on it? I remember something about it, but um, it looks like the phone is malfunctioning. If you want to try again, just keep trying. And I am interested in Soul, if you can give me some info. Infinite Plane Radio.
Hey, what's up, man?
Hey, what's up? What were you calling about this evening?
So, hey, what's up, man? I heard today the lunar solar cycle is 33 years, give or take.
What is that cycle called? Here we go. Oh, it's just called the lunar solar cycle. Okay. Okay, so it says here,
Yeah,
yeah, the time it takes for them
that's
to
what I
reach alignment
thought.
is 33 years.
Give or
Position.
take, right?
It says the cycle of 12 months regresses through the seasons over a period of 33 years. So there's an explanation for it here. Very interesting.
Because from what I understood, it's Gregorian versus, well, it's lunar versus solar calendar. So when I was reading stuff about it, it was like they were referencing like Gregorian, and they were referencing Islamic, which there's other lunar calendars.
Very interesting. Yeah, that's another example. I was looking this up just now, and I came across the movie Dark, which I haven't seen. And this is such a weird obsession with the power elite, their numbers, the numerology. But the movie Dark is about
So,
events repeating every 33 years, and they make that as a basis for the show.
well, I know I'm pretty sure I know you are familiar with the 19-year cycle of the lunar thing with the 9/11 and Corona cycle, lunar 19-year cycle. So, I mean, I know you don't subscribe to geometry and numerology like in a stronger sense than somebody like I would, but I kind of do. And the 19 and the 33, 33 is like, it's a bit, I don't even know. It like sunk its claws at me. So
I think it has to do with,
this has been a thing.
like, I think there's a
And
connection.
ambiently, like, it's been a thing for a while with me. When I first like red pilled or whatever, which I feel like I had it the whole time, but it just whatever the catalyst is. 33's been there the whole time, and so ambient. I'm like, man, maybe that's why it was there the whole time. Because now I'm figuring different stuff out about it. It was like all the other stuff we know about it. I didn't know that. That the lunar eclipse is just about every 33 years.
You know what? I think it's important to learn as much as we can about it because it has a consistency. Like I recently learned that escape velocity to leave the Earth is 33, Mach 33, 33 times the speed of sound.
I remember.
And I'm like,
I remember you've been mentioning that.
so if to transcend the material realm, to go from kingdom to crown, to ascend the 33 vertebrae, the Kundalini serpent, it's all been connected with 33. So transcending the material realm, leaving the material realm are both connected to that. So I keep seeing the number 33 is correlated with ascension, but you know everything here adds to it, and it's very, very consistent.
I always heard it was like sacred geometry or whatever. It's like a number within sacred geometry. It's like one, three. The 3 is like one of Tesla's 3, 6, and 9 numbers. So I also, I gotta keep my thought pattern going here. 33. So I gotta give credit due. I forgot my other point, but I had multiple points. I gotta give credit due if it's all right with you for a name
Sure.
that I brushed upon today. And this guy's gold, bro. Robert Sepper.
And what does he do, or what is he writing?
He's an anthropologist on YouTube, and I've been listening to him forever. And like, he's got his focus, you know. But he dropped today the occult of the eclipse, and I haven't even listened to the whole thing yet. But usually his better ones like just blow your mind up front. And then he tossed in an AJ clip. I guess he got on AJ's like Spaces the other day. And it's like so hard for me. I don't know, like, dude, AJ's AJ, right? But like he's dropping breadcrumbs and stuff. So it's connecting dots and everything. I listen to AJ. And like I missed him. I'm like, damn, Robert Sepper was on AJ the other day. What the hell? But it makes sense because it was Spaces. And it's interesting because AJ's AJ, and like he don't touch certain things, and Robert Sepper does. Like I said, he's got his focus, and I know how you are. It may not be like some of your focus, but with that said, that's not even like he also drops other things that are so transparent, like the whole. I'm like, damn. Lunar solar cycle, 33 years, like give or take, like, dude.
No, look, I'm glad you do this. I think it's important to give credit or point your sources because we're trying to understand where we arrive at things and we want to build a network. And if somebody wants to follow up, they can learn more. And I get my information from everywhere. I follow anybody, anywhere. I listen to far left-wing woke podcasts and far-right Christian nationalists. I like to have a full spectrum awareness of where everybody's minds are at. But even if somebody's wrong because they're in the box, they may have a lot of great research and make a lot of great connections before they even step out of the box, if they ever get there. So I never discount someone just because they're on AJ's show. I don't even discount everything AJ says.
He talks about stuff that maybe we don't talk about a lot here. Like I just know it's been a point of contention. Like, and I'm not trying to do that. Like
Well, it's not even a
I
point of
fly to
contention
Jolly,
so much as
no,
we're
I
like
fly to Jolly Roger, bro. Like it's everybody's my enemy. You know what I mean?
we only have
So
so
it's
much
not.
time
I'm
in the
just
world,
saying.
and I'm like, I
I
want to
was
move
prefacing.
this
I was
into.
prefacing this information transparently to the fullest extent, because if people go look up what I'm talking about, they're going to see what was going on that whole thing. And there's not just one point there of the 33 years and the solar, the lunar solar occult of the eclipse. That's all I'm saying. I'm just doing a preface here, like a
Sure, sure, I got it,
you
I
know,
got it, I got it. And I
like a
listen to,
stop
like I
that.
said, like I think it's important just as long as you understand someone's frame of reference, it doesn't matter. Like I understand what makes the chemtrailer tick. I understand what makes the woke tick. And I understand,
Somebody was asking me about chemtrails the other day too. I thought about you.
yeah, well, it's fascinating, but what it really reveals about somebody, whenever somebody makes a claim, it reveals something about their standards of evidence or how open they are to manipulation. And if somebody says, I believe 5G towers and chemtrails are deadly together, it tells me you take the bait on loaded questions. You accept arguments from or appeals to ignorance, and you probably accepted wrongfully the burden of proof on something. So it just, I like to be able to understand where people are coming from because we are trailblazing here a pathway to what I call the off world stage perspective. And it is the highest perspective to take in a hyper mediated, hyperstitious world.
Yeah, uh, I agree. I think I remember one of my other points.
Sure.
Uh, you were saying the shape, right? And that's not one of my subjects I'm really that great at, because I got a couple sets of binoculars, but I can't see the whole picture. So, and you were like, they I forget how you said it, but you're saying they basically market the globe. So why would you believe it? And then the only other shape that's marketed, I guess, in a fringe perspective, is like the flat, right? So maybe there's something else. And I know you've said that before.
Well, interestingly, the new Godzilla versus King Kong, the Godzilla X and King Kong movie, it's a hollow Earth, which is kind of funny.
Yeah, I've heard about that too. Like that's like, yeah, I heard about that
Look,
from
I
like
think it is hollow.
South,
I think it's
from
hollow,
like
but
Antarctica and South America and like Nazis and stuff.
I think it's been Swiss cheesed by humans. Like I think there's Hyperloop Swiss cheesing this place. Deep space is probably real, and there might be more than just a few deep underground military bases. And I think the underground bases are probably all decked out
Oh,
like Mars.
I believe in those things, man. You know, because I've built subterranean before. You know, not far, not that like that, but I mean, you could do subterranean builds.
Yeah, there's a rumor that where I live by the Air Force Base Kirtland. There's a rumor that there's an underground highway. Basically, you can drive from underground here all the way to Los Alamos. And the idea that
Yeah,
we're
those
like,
stories been out there. Most of these OGs in this room know that those stories have been out there, man.
and many of the
Including you.
stories, yeah,
You came from the Pentagon services. You know a lot of this stuff I learned was when I lived in Tacoma, Washington, next to Fort Lewis McChord. You know, all the flunkies that were dropping out were hitting me with all this allegedly like conspiracy theory shit, right? That's such a stupid word. But and we were just like, dude, it's crazy, man. Like those guys, like they were in there, and like I lived next to Fort Lewis McChord. There's probably tunnels under there, and I heard they got was it EMAG Lev little trains.
well, I will believe that there is extensive underground architecture way before I believe that there is a secret space program or even a space station. The
Yeah, that's, oh man,
and look,
that's
what better distraction,
that's like common sense you just said right there.
Yeah, look, they easily have the ability. Just look at the picture of Werner von Braun next to Walt Disney. They could have made Mars. Mars might already exist, and it's a place beneath the Earth, and they might start sending people there, and nobody will know the difference. Like, I kind of think that's where we're at.
What, send people to Mars?
That Mars is probably a place in Earth, and at some point, Earth may become
Arizona,
Mars. Arizona, China, it's probably all over the place, and at some
New
point,
Mexico, in your backyard, dude.
yeah, yeah. But they're gonna
I've
have
been to Arizona. I love Arizona, bro. I haven't been to New Mexico yet, but I'd like to.
the Southwest is great. I happen to like this whole part of the
It's
country,
beautiful. It's
but
beautiful, man.
New Mexico has the Trinity site, and recently I went to the Atomic Museum here, and I saw artifacts from the Trinity site, like the flag that was there, some of the cars, the replica of the gadget. So this place has an interesting history, metascript-wise, in terms of the big psyops of our time, the UFO thing, Roswell, New Mexico, Corona Field.
Yeah, no, that's why. Yeah, it's very substantial. Yes, like I mean, Arizona isn't like that in the aspect you're saying, but Arizona is like it's landlocked, southwest. It's at the border. There's a lot of frequency in Arizona, man. Sedona.
Yeah, Sedona's a hub
And
of a lot there. There's a lot of that kind of
that is,
uh,
they say that they found uh, Egyptian artifacts in the Grand Canyon.
I've come across that. I find it all interesting. I like I don't necessarily think the mud
I mean,
flood.
is that something that you don't think is possible?
No, I do. I don't trust the timelines. I don't trust anything about this thing, and none of that would shock me. What do you?
Like, yeah, it's just like, why can't somebody move around? That's, you know what, I told you before. There's some kind of linchpin with the Templars, and there's that whole story about Oak Island. I don't even know about Oak Island. All I know is, like, I heard that the Templars were on the North American continent previously, before all that went down with Christopher Columbus and stuff.
Yeah, I was.
And maybe even like
Yeah, I was told.
the Vikings, like Leif Erikson and the Vikings were like same time or even before them. Like, people were moving around.
Yeah. I was actually. Someone had pointed out something about they had gone to Rosslyn Chapel, and this,
I,
this
I would love to go there.
and that suggest that there were some depictions of certain species of plants that were in North America, and it just kind of suggested that the builders, the cathedrals, had a lot of inside information.
They got carvings of corn in that chapel, and they said it's like, oh, maize,
Yes.
corn. Yo, not for nothing, I'm gonna shout him out. Maze Overlay, one of my favorite new rappers. He's like my age, actually. I think a little younger, from Arizona.
All right.
People probably won't get that, but in Roslyn Chapel, they got carvings of corn, and it's in Scotland, right?
Yes, that'd be it. And,
Yeah,
and it's
it's
just
like
the
old.
Templar.
It's like really old, and it's like alleged. It's not Templar, right? But it's allegedly Templar, right?
Yes. There's a fascinating history there, and it was brought up to me in this context, suggesting that the story of Christopher Columbus. And what do you know about Columbus? How many days into Christopher
This is what.
Columbus's journey did he discover what he discovered? When did that whole thing begin?
So I don't know the answer
The answer.
to the question you just asked me.
Here's a hint. How many days?
I don't know it. I
How
don't
many
know it,
days?
but I know some of my Templar stuff is about him, but I don't know that answer.
Columbus sailed for 33 continuous days into the unknown with a crew on the verge of mutiny. So 33 days, just throwing it out there. Maybe it means something.
To cross the pond there.
Here's the story. After stopping at the Canary Islands, he sailed west for 33 days. and that's when he made his discovery.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, I'm gonna check that. You know, I'm gonna check it because I love that 3-3.
Yep.
But I haven't heard that yet. But this is my Templar thing with Columbus because I grew up in New England, and Thanksgiving and all that BS is like big, and like in history class and whatnot, like that's what they ran through us. And
Hey, speaking of
I
Arizona, Mago Penguins is in Scottsdale, and he just filmed Falcon X flying through the night sky. He says it was
beautiful.
a cool sight, even though it didn't go to space. You know, it's always cool to see these rigid dirigibles with fireworks
On
in
the
the
arc,
bottom.
right? It was
Yeah,
like arcing.
I love fireworks. I like theater.
It
I
was
like
like arcing, right?
maybe he can call in.
It,
Mango Penguins, if
it's
you
like
want to, we have
yeah.
somebody who
So
sighted a Falcon X.
I'm almost done. It's because, but when they do that, it's like arcing, right?
That's
When
a
you see the rocket.
that's sort of a flat Earth talking point that doesn't quite
Yeah,
cut
right.
it. But
I'm not. You know, I'm not flat Earth though, but that's what they say, right?
well, no, what it's called it's like the gravity tilt. Like it falls into orbit after it reaches a certain altitude. It does tilt, but
But if you think about, are you a shooter?
am I a what now?
Well, you were in the military. You must be somewhat of a shooter.
A shooter. Oh yeah, I was a expert marksman.
How does the trajectory go when you shoot a bullet?
Well, we didn't fire more
It's
than
got
300 yards, but
yeah, but you see, you know, it's got a arc.
oh, sure. But the thing is, the rocket it's not like it's going directly from Earth perpendicular to space. It falls into orbit and it goes around. And this is interesting because I've
That's
seen
what I'm saying. It arcs. It doesn't go straight up. Like they
it can't.
say, like
It
an
can't.
obelisk.
It
Like
couldn't. If it went straight,
it
it has
can't.
to go into orbit. And so what they do is they call it the gravity tilt, and it's sort of like
Wait, so it does go straight up.
well, it goes into it falls into orbit is the way they explain it.
All right.
The gravity turn. So
But
basically, it it
it's mostly an arc.
yes, exactly.
All right. Like you shoot a projectile and it comes out. It's got the feet per second and it arcs, dude. It's got a. That's what I love. Certain projectiles in caliber or millimeter, like they have a flat line.
Well, we have somebody who just saw Falcon X, and he's out there in Scottsdale. I've never seen it, but I think they want us to see it. I think they sent it out there as a
I'm
form
spinning
of.
my wheels anyways on this. I'm spinning my wheels on this anyways.
Well, he may call in and give us some insights, but yeah, I think they want us to see these things because it's part of propping up the illusion. It's a tangible evidence of outer space. Just seeing one of these things going up there, it leads everybody. It's like, yeah, of course it's going up there. It's going to space. It doesn't do anything more than reinforce the dominant paradigm. So it's fascinating, though, that people are seeing these things. I would like to see one.
So I'm going to hit you with my Templar thing and then hang up.
Sure. What was the Templar thing?
Yeah. Christopher Columbus. I had heard later in life, like I said, I grew up where they taught that, you know, in history class very substantially. And I remember images. It's because I love imagery. I love signs and symbols rule the world, not words, nor laws. I remember imagery of like learning this stuff as a kid in a history class or whatnot. With Christopher Columbus, he's got the boats, and on his sails, I remember a red cross. Okay, maybe it's Mandela. I don't know. I'm not into that either, really, but people talk about it. I remember a red cross on his sails. And I had heard later in life when I got into this esoteric, that's another thing that grabbed me, was the esoteric. Because all these modern day things lead back to like esoteric ancient information. And his Christopher Columbus allegedly married a Templar princess after 1307 when they were persecuted, and a bunch of them had boats and whatever. They were all like top dog lieutenant, like they had resources. And Jacques de Molay, I think that was, I don't know if he was the head guy that got burned at the stake or whatever, but they got a bunch of them at the stake, and most of them bounced, and they went all over. And one was Scotland, Portugal. A lot of them were the first pirates, from what I heard. But anyway, so he married allegedly a Templar princess, and then he sailed over here to the West Indies or whatever, America or whatever.
So you may have had.
I remember in the imagery from learning in school that he had his boats on the sails were red crosses.
Very interesting. Very interesting.
End of story.
Very, very.
That's just me. That's my. I don't know, like ambient, or anecdotal or whatever.
Well, the red and white cross is a very important symbol.
He knew where he was going.
Sure. That's what you're implying. You're implying that it wasn't an accident that 33 days after leaving the Canary Islands, he accidentally found this place that wasn't on the maps. Yeah, absolutely. That would indicate something.
Maybe it happened to me 33, but I heard they came here first. So I'm saying maybe he knew where he was going.
Sure. Maybe it wasn't an accident. That's what I'm suggesting too. We're looking at possibly another one of these historic personages, more or less a fairy tale to explain.
And he was the one that they marketed. There was all kinds of people in North America before him. But when I grew up, they were like, "Oh, he's the guy that found it over here." No, he wasn't. He's the one they marketed.
Yes, interesting point. And yeah, the history we're given is always a vast oversimplification, and it reflects the interests of the power elite who can afford to control the media of the day. History is mass media, just going back, way back. So we can trust it as much as we can trust mass media. Appreciate
the printing press.
Exactly. Appreciate the call, and I'm sure that'll dig stuff up. And thank you for bringing up the thing with the moon as well.
Yeah.
Have a great evening.
Thank you for your work, dog.
Same. All right, everyone. That is G33. Interesting info about the moon. More to add to the compendium of meanings and associations with that particular number. Elephant Tusk says Templars ruled the world, the fallen angels. And well, where do we go with that? I mean, the Templars were accused of worshiping Baphomet. Some say that was slander, but then, interestingly, the Skull and Bones is considered to be a Templar offshoot. The Church of Satan claims that they are also following the tradition of the Templars by making the Baphomet their sigil. So who are you going to believe? The people who worship Baphomet, or the people who are trying to whitewash that or suggest it was a hoax? I mean, I don't know. One thing though, the Baphomet is not the devil. Everybody gets that wrong. Cat Williams is wrong about that. Infinite Plane Radio.
Tim.
Hey, what's up? What are you calling about?
It's Mango here.
Okay, so you just saw a flying obelisk lighting up the night sky. Is that what I heard?
Supposedly it was a Falcon X is what I heard. So, but yeah, it was great. Just witnessing that. We were outside. We're like near Old Town Scottsdale. I had my back to it. My sister spotted it, and then my friend was there, Greg. He turned around and said, "Oh, it's a rocket." And I turn around and I see this thing, and it's just the halo on that was just humongous, and the trail that it left behind. We were looking west, and the sun had just set, and you could see the trail it left behind, but it was going clearly across the sky horizontally, and we filmed it, and it lasted about 2 minutes. and then it just kind of faded off past after it went past a palm tree. It like disappeared. But yeah, we got it on film, and it was really cool.
Now, question: would it have been
Yeah.
cooler if you believed it was actually going to space, or was it just as cool, even though you know it's just a show? Or does that make it even
Oh,
better?
it was just cool to witness. You understand what I'm saying? Like a UFO, like something. Oh my gosh, what is that?
Yeah.
It was like it was great. We just had our eyes on it. My other sister, she was crashed out. She wasn't feeling very well. Nobody bothered to wake her up. We just stood there. It's filming it, you know. The other sister was just stood there watching it and commented a little bit. And wow. And me and my friend Greg, we just filmed it. And just stood there, and I kind of commented a little bit, staggered about, and just looked at the trail and thought, oh wow, just tripping on it. It was a great sight to see, and I'm glad I got it on video.
Very cool. Well, hey, thanks for
Yeah.
reporting on that. I've been
Hey, no problem. I
I've
was
been
happy to share it, man. It was so fun. It was great, man. We're celebrating. We've laughed so hard today. We had a great time.
That's cool that
Yeah.
you are well aware that it could be a hoax, but you can still see it and appreciate just at least
Absolutely.
the artistry of it
It
all,
was
postmodern art,
it was a
whatever it is.
beauty.
Hmm.
It was a sight to see. I tell you what.
Well, they've really done something with the way that it leaves the trail, and some people think it looks like it's going through some kind of a membrane. It's going through the firmament.
It was weird the way it looked. And firmament, I don't know. It just casted off such a big halo, you could say, and just burning. It was, I guess, burning up, burning until I guess it just faded out.
Probably
But
33,
it did not go up into space at all. It was completely horizontal.
completely
From,
horizontal with its
yeah,
33 Raptor engines. But that's kind of funny too. It's like our impression is they shoot up into space, but then you look at it
yeah, that's what we
and
did.
their explanation is it's falling into orbit. But yeah, I think it's way too
It was
low.
on a full burn horizontally until it faded out.
Very interesting.
That was it.
Hey,
Not straight up in its face.
I have a question for you from Dua Sempera says, ask Mango for his take on 8-4.
8-4. I have no take on it. I don't really
Okay.
follow the news.
Any take on the eclipse or any expectations? Are you going to be observing? Are you in a place to observe?
Well, I'm going to celebrate that day. That's 30 years ago. My dad would have died. I'm also. It's just, yeah. It's just a weird synchronicity for me. But Kurt Cobain, he had died around the same time.
Oh
On my
yeah.
dad's death.
Okay.
I
Okay.
was out in the middle of nowhere in New Mexico near Gattle, and we got lost. Couldn't find the ranch. He had 160 acres of property up there, but we got lost. We ended up crashing. He had died earlier that night. He was at Lake Mead. They had rented a 40-foot houseboat, and somebody had suffered a fall and had to be rushed to the hospital, and the waves were bad, and the boat came untied, and he overdid it, getting that boat tied back to the dock. But he later died in the captain's chair.
Oh, I'm sorry to
Never
hear
a dull
that.
moment. But yeah, 30 years on the eclipse. We have lost him. So it's and my birthday is the same day as Kurt Cobain's. Not the same day, but we have the same birthdays.
I was talking to some friend in Discord today about astrology and time and all this stuff, and I find it intriguing how I tend to have these like repeated cycles that seem to follow some kind of
Oh,
patterning, and anniversaries, even if I don't know the
yeah.
dates, I don't know. There's something about these things. It's like,
Um, yeah, this isn't my first rodeo, and it's a
hmm
year after my dad died. It was a spiritual awakening. It snowed. That was like 1995. Yeah, it snowed that day. I went. Yeah, it was. We watched The Lion King that night, but it was another time. It was
well,
very
it's another
very
time,
just
like the time paradox. Like
very different back then.
yeah, we are actually in a very interesting position here, in that
We
we
are.
are
I know.
we're looking at this construct as it's evolving, and we have a better perception of what it was before because it's been built around us as we've been like living this transition into a new age. and we're watching the.
We've been able to take it apart and disassemble it and kind of like figure it out on our own. You know, a lot of us have. Yeah,
Yeah,
and
and
it's
just
tough trying to go along with the norm when you're out of the norm. You're not following the norm because you know you just know too much.
think about the
And
fact
not
that,
everybody does.
but think about the fact that we have a large growing group of people who have unplugged so far from
Uh
the
huh.
mass mind control that we're no longer triggered at an emotional level, other than to enjoy it as though it's just a bad movie we're critiquing. Like we have actually
Yeah.
unplugged from the fundamental terrorism that is built into their system. We don't fear their gods. And to me, that is a huge
Sure.
move forward because this perspective of being
It's
fear
a
free,
big
this is fear free without apathy. We have no
it,
apathy about it. We're
it's a
just
big
aware.
weight off the shoulders, if you ask me. It's a big weight off my shoulders, knowing all that. You know, being aware of truth in a way. You know.
Yeah, and I think that when you're
Yeah,
unplugged from unnecessary fears and anxieties, it's like you have more bandwidth available
exactly.
for what matters, and you're not spread thin. And but
Exactly.
we wouldn't have this as an option because it's not available to the public. We weren't supposed to step outside of the black cube to the extent that we have. So I'm
That's
really,
that's
like I'm happy
This
for
is
that we have this
exactly
position.
why I'm I'm dedicated to resurrecting poetry. Those words that those bands I listened to growing up mean a lot to me, and they mean so much more ever now than you would ever can imagine, because they do hit you in the right spot if you were to just take the time to do the research.
Resurrecting poetry. Yeah, we were in our
That I've
conversations.
shared my side plenty of times, and I know I got it out there thanks to Peppy.
Yep.
But none of that gets mentioned much. But anyways, I'm excited. These are good times, and I'm going to celebrate, and I'm going to continue that celebration every day.
Well, hey, thank you for calling, and I'm glad you got to see the
And no
Falcon
problem.
X. I hope to get
Oh,
to
it was
see
great.
something myself soon at some point, but
I'll try to share what I got out. Okay.
awesome, awesome. Well, thank you,
I'll send it
Penguins, for the
over.
call. Have a great evening.
Hey, hey, kudos to you, Tim. You're doing a great job.
Thank you. All right, we have a witness. We have a witness that Falcon X is still defrauding the public. We don't have a witness to a spacecraft, but a purported spacecraft. Let me catch up on some comments. Jake the A-hole says Owen has 5 guys exposing him daily. There's an audience that enjoys seeing him getting exposed. Oh, it's terrible. I've seen that. Look, I've seen hate. I've been the subject of haters, and this channel has been. And there's an entire Reddit thread that day in day out of Seth's like hate watches Owen Benjamin. And yeah, he was just on Alex Jones. I didn't get to hear that. I haven't followed much of him other than to take note of where he is as far as his position and this MAGA ban, rural traditional values versus Hollywood and how it fits into the big picture. I think it's all interesting. I didn't know who he was until he hosted a Flat Earth conference, and it seemed like sabotage, given that the only thing the media could take away from that conference was they put this a Jew hater in front of the flat earthers, and I'm like, what the hell is this? So I went through his comedy, and it's like he's just kind of a comedian who has been more or less outgrouped and branded as a hater, and he's been censored. But yeah, totally is hounded by haters. It's unbelievable, and I don't always believe the haters, but I have been watching this whole thing with great interest. Not sure where it's going. I heard that he's building the next Ruby Ridge, and there's going to be some ATF standoff. I've also heard he's had to sell off his animals, and that he's just cosplaying as a farmer. But we shall see. Okay, let's see what else we have here. Just scanning your comments. Jake the A-hole says Zach Hubbard has a dedicated exposer as well called Sports Geomatria. I have a side channel where I expose a guy known as Gotis, aka Sirij. He hired a hitman to kill his girlfriend and child. That sounds intriguing. Flatmander Montgomery says there's a newspaper about Sirij where is that his name? Sverig. He stabbed 4 of his classmates when he was 16. Plain Dakota says Owen hate is a bit much, but Hubbard's is warranted. Yeah, I have a bit of respect for Owen Benjamin's ability to fall into the Mandela trap and walk himself out. Not a lot of people can do that. He was mandoozled and then he reverse engineered the if you build it, they will come. And that takes the ability to admit that you can be duped and to reverse engineer it. So I'm not too up on his content though. It was never really my genre, is what I'm saying. But I recognize some commonalities. Haters, media hates him, outsider, but he had some connections with Hollywood, so people think he's an insider. I don't know. Now I have a thing about Geomatria recently I've been talking about. Like I like Geomatria, and G33 and I were talking about this. I'm not against it. I don't dismiss it. It's actually a huge part of symbolism. We're talking about the power of words, numbers, correspondences, and meaning itself, and how people ascribe meaning to symbols, etc., and how we attach meaning to things and form meaningful relationships. And so there's some fascinating stuff there. But when people use these calculations to say this event and this event are connected to this one and this is going to happen because numbers, then they lose me. And that's because they have not in any way ever been vindicated. They predicted the world is going to end at the Super Bowl. Didn't happen. Now they're predicting 4/9 the world's going to end. And if it doesn't happen, I'm going to call it out. I'm going to call it out as fallacious reasoning by, I would say, people putting engagement ahead of truth, like Dan Bongino warned against. It's strange that I'm here citing Dan Bongino of all people, but either Dan Bongino is copying us or he's just coming up with some good observations on his own. Plain Dakota says 128 boat collapse. Boat collapse equals 128 Geomatria connection. Yeah, no, that's as far as I'll go. So for example, boat gets hit at 128. Movie released. Leave the World Behind, 128. Matthew Perry, huge part of the movie, dies 1028. There's some connections building to the Eclipse. Matthew Perry's character Chandler Bing is born on 4/8. Francis Scott Key Bridge, Baltimore mayor, born 4/8. At 2 hours, no, at 128 minutes rather into the movie, you can actually look at the screen cap. There's a channel and there's a bridge blowing up. We have a number of examples of 1 to 8 being connected to this event where it seems like it's very clear, and many more examples. I'm more impressed and interested in the contiguous narratives that connect movies to the news. Like, for example, the Francis Scott Key Monument being replaced by a 1619 Project Monument, and the 1619 White Lion connections in the movie to the boat. This Francis Scott Key connection also connects to the BLM vandalizing this statue. So there's all kinds. Elephant Tusk says boat must hit steel. Well, having watched the video too, I'm still not convinced that the boat could have taken it down. That the boat could have taken the whole bridge down with one hit. I think it would have taken some bit of wiring. I think it was a controlled demolition. They WTC 7'd the Keystone, I'm sorry, the Key Bridge, Francis Scott Key Bridge. Listen to this. Brother Berg put this out. 4 days after the Key Bridge collapse, another bridge was hit by a ship near the Care Lock and Dam outside Sallisaw, Oklahoma. So you have Key and Lock. And he suggests here, the damage or destruction of the key and lock represents the loss of protection for secrets or knowledge and an exposure. It implies a disruptive shift from order to chaos, challenging the balance between what is hidden and what is revealed. The metaphorical destruction could symbolize the end of a period of safeguarded wisdom or the beginning of a new era, where previously concealed truths become accessible, urging a reevaluation of what is valued and protected. And we could add on to this that the Francis Scott Key Memorial that was replaced by a 1619 project, the monument that replaced it, that was next to the Golden Gate Bridge. So you have Francis Scott Key, the monument called Key, the Golden Gate Bridge, and now this second reference here of a lock. All of this stuff, though, is, again, storytelling, narrative, a narrative structure that is superimposing a fiction over our reality. And the predictive programming is not an eerie coincidence. It was rehearsal. It was predictive programming for the purpose of acclimating you to something that they're about to do so you think it's normal and natural. A better way of describing it, advertising. Advertising works on repetition. They show you an ad a few times, then they do it. They have been advertising our future news events with entertainment media and video games and books and novels for a long time. And a literalist says Bridge 7 didn't kill himself. Well, I'm looking at the bridge situation as also connected to Dali, the broken bridge, and the surreality of the Dali painting being introduced into this story, because the boat's called Dali, may connect to Leave the World Behind, and its emphasis on abstract art all over the apartment, things constantly changing. I got a comment last night from Illinois Jones who said, about the Tom Cruise thing, he falls to his death in spoof superhero movie. I caught that comment last night before I could bring it up. We were talking about Tom Cruise and how he has been, for years now, part of a body of predictive programming for his seeming upcoming final curtain call. I think Tom Cruise is going to die in space, or he's going to fall from space. He's going to get lost in space. I think Tom Cruise is going to have some kind of sacrificial space-based ending. That's been my prediction based on predictive programming. So what Illinois Jones added here is that this has already happened in a movie. Very interesting. I'll check that out. Now, movies are entertainment second, propaganda first. In fact, the entertainment is just a side effect of the programming. So if it's in the movies and it's promoted by the major production companies, if it's Hollywood level programming, everything in it is literally preparing you for the future. It is loading up your subconscious to make you suggestible for what they're going to fake in the future. Illinois Jones says superhero movie is directed by HBO Chernobyl director. Jake the A-hole says it doesn't even look like the same Tom Cruise anymore. It appears Tom was replaced years ago. And how often have we seen Tom Cruise with masks on? Or they talk about Tom Cruise double, Tom Cruise deep fakes. Like, this has always been a thing with Tom Cruise. And the name Thomas means twin. A key point to keep in mind here regarding his character. Angle of Elevation says they can hack into cars pretty easy. I know people are shocked that it could be happening in boats and planes. Seems probable. Well, that's a probable story, so they made it a guardrail. And they said it's been hacked. The fact of it is, it's a world stage production. It's a plot twist. It's a scene. It's not a whodunit, it's a what is it, it's a movie. It's a psyop. But the whodunits distract people and keep them in the game. It's sort of like the, I guess, narrative of it's a hacker. It was China. It was ISIS. It was somebody who was vaxxed. It was a DEI event. Like, they have all these different spin-off explanations that assume it's real. Jake the Asshole says, have you dealt with the sanity machine? I just looked it up, and I will take a look here. The sanity machine. If you want to give me a link, is God an AI demonic computer? Sounds intriguing. We'll talk about the demonic AI, some kind of demiurge behind all this madness. That way Armin going to sleep can have dreams about that. Angst G says Tom Cruise in space sounds like it'd be a good Chief Crow song. The Edge of Tomorrow is about a time loop we're stuck inside, says Elephant Tusks. Very interesting. Now, you can't separate these individuals from their body of work in the film, but their world stage actions as well. Tom Cruise, his Scientology connection, Scientology, NASAtology, these are the main space religions of our time. Scientology has better actors. NASA has better, I think, special effects. But they're both space religions. He divorced each of his wives when they turned 33. There's so much code and symbols with all of these characters. Tom Cruise is also associated with Stanley Kubrick directly, Eyes Wide Shut. So he's part of that whole program. And one of these days, I would like to do some video breaking down what I think is a relationship between Eyes Wide Shut and Open Your Eyes, or rather Vanilla Sky, originally called Open Your Eyes. I think that these two movies are connected. That Tom Cruise is actually playing the same character, and it's a contiguous story, but it's another conversation for another time. Now, we will be live earlier tomorrow. We'll take more calls. We were live in Discord for hours today, just testing it out. So we're back on Discord. We're having a lot of conversations along the lines of world stage, deconstruction, and everything else. Our own channel history, where we're going, also South Pole art, etc. So if you want to be involved in the Discord server, I'll be in there in the mornings while I'm doing my routine work of archiving, channel maintenance, and everything else. So if you want to join that, just go to the main site, ips.monster, click the link for Discord. We're also doing more of our research in Gilded, but it's the Discord voice chat that has the best features. Trying to see if there's anything else going on before we leave here. I think we covered everything. I'm glad I got that comment in from Illinois Jones about the Tom Cruise thing. Don't know when that's happening. Also, I want to say thanks to all of you who have been supporting the channel. Patreon, again, is keeping the IPS headquarters lights on, internet on, and the work continuous. So that's all being made possible, of course, by all of you here. We had a individual here see a Falcon X rocket that was Mango Penguins.
It's like
so. It's only appropriate we end here with Pope Elon, One-Eyed Jack in the Shells. Thanks, chat. We'll see you all tomorrow.
We're going to die someday, and if you're going to pick some place to die, then why not Mars? Okay. You know, if we're born on Earth, why not die on Mars? Seems like maybe it'd be kind of exciting. But so I think, given the choice of dying on Earth or dying on Mars, I'd say, yeah, sure, I'll die on Mars.
Father, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come. Give us each our daily bread, and forgive us our sins. For we ourselves forgive everyone who is indebted to us. And lead us not into temptation. Drive your car to Mars. Do yourself a space. Hiding behind Tesla's name. Afraid the sheep will wake. Pace we can't call home. Come on.